Okay. All right, so we're recording. So welcome everybody. Today's Crown Countdown session is on housing. We'll be talking about on-campus housing and off-campus housing. And we have representatives from both offices here with us today. And so we'll start with introductions. In case you haven't logged into the first two webinars, I'm Haley Hardenbrook. I'm in the International Admissions Office here at ODU, and I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I am Thomas Wilkinson. I work in our Student Engagement and Traditions Department. Specifically, I am the Off-Campus Student Life Coordinator. So I support our students who are living off campus, but still taking on-campus classes. And I do that through programs, initiatives, and supporting more of the housing side of things as well.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Petcoast, and I'm the Assistant Director for Occupancy Management and Housing and Residence Life. So I handle all housing assignments, housing applications, and any questions students have.
Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Steve Risch. I'm the Director of International Admissions here at ODU. Welcome, everyone.
All right, so we're very excited to talk to you about housing today. We know you have a lot of questions and you have a lot of good expertise here. So we'll start, before we get started, I wanted to do two polls very quickly. The first one is the visa poll. We did this last time just to see where you are in your visa process, to see if there's been any changes. So I'm going to launch this one right now. If you can please answer quickly your visa type and then where you are in the process. We like to keep up throughout the summer to see how far students have gotten. Our last session was on the visa process, so if you missed it, the recording is up on the website if you need to go back and watch it. All right, thank you. It looks like we have mostly F1 students here today. Some of you have gotten your visa document, but haven't yet started the visa process. Some more on a different type of visa. Excellent. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. So please submit your answer if you haven't done it yet. Okay. And then the other poll is about housing. So maybe you've already started to think about where you would like to live. And so, one second, sorry, I have to launch the second one. Well, it's just pulling up the visa poll. Here we go. All right, hopefully you see the housing poll on your screen now. So the first question is, where would you like to live your first year at ODU? On campus means you're physically on campus and the university is your landlord, essentially, or off campus means you're off the physical campus space, but maybe right nearby, and the university is not your landlord. It might be a company or an individual, or maybe you're not sure yet, and you're here today to learn more. And then the second question is, have you already found housing? All right, so one more second on this poll and I'm getting ready to end it. All right, thank you. All right, and now we'll get started. I'm gonna turn it over to Jennifer to talk about on-campus housing. Oh, you're muted.
That would help. So for on-campus housing, we have at least 13 residence halls. We have 4 different neighborhoods and about 4,800 students that live on campus. So if you're interested in living on campus, you would go to the ODU housing portal, which there's a QR code right at the bottom that you can scan, and it'll bring you right to the housing portal. There's also a website with application information that you can utilize to get more information about, different residence halls. But in order to apply for on-campus housing, you need to accept your admissions offer and pay your admissions deposit, and then you would activate your MIDAS. Once you do that, you would be able to log into the housing portal to complete your housing application. So we guarantee housing for freshmen, Transfers are not guaranteed, so we recommend applying early, but we do typically, we are able to place all transfer students that do apply for housing. Our graduate students, we have limited availability, so it's first come, first serve, and we ask you to apply early as well. Right now, our Nussbaum Apartments, which is graduate housing, is filled, but we have limited availability in University Village and the Powhatan Apartments still. So these are just our different facilities. So we have the quad area. This is a mix of freshmen, upper class. We have living learning communities. So if you're interested in a living learning community, you can apply for one of those. And we have an Honors College LLC, which is in Virginia House. In the quad, there's also Ireland, Scotland, France, Dominion, Owens, and England. Some of those buildings are just for freshmen, and some are for upper class and mixed students. And then we have the Elizabeth River, which is Whitehurst and Powhatan Apartments. Whitehurst is a freshman building, and our Powhatan Apartments is for upper class students. So there's a Whitehurst beach, and there's a picnic area, and there's a nice view of the water. We have Monarch Way, and this is a good place to like grab a bite to eat, enjoy music at the coffee spot, or take a trip to the ODU bookstore. And this is where our village apartments are, and this is for upper class students. Then we have the Collie Bay area, which is Rogers, Gresham, Nussbaum Apartments, and the Foundation House. The Foundation House is for an LLC, so you would have to apply for the LLC in order to live there.
Do you mind explaining what an LLC is for our students who don't know?
So it's a living learning community, and there's different communities that we have to offer. So we have an engineering LLC, we have a health professions LLC, the honors program LLC, and there's a few different other ones. If you go on ODU's website and you type in living learning communities, you can get a list of all the different living learnings, and you could read about them and actually see what might interest you. And then once you would complete your housing application, you would then complete the living learning application and apply for a living learning. So we have a move-in guide that helps you get a packing list, other tips, some safety services, getting around campus, meal plan info, living with a roommate. And we have a list of what to bring and what not to bring. So when you move on campus, we ask that you bring cleaning and laundry supplies. So you would be responsible for cleaning your own room, your bathroom, laundry. You do get, I think it's 60 swipes. And you would download an app, and then when you just go to do laundry, you would just scan the app, and they would take away a swipe. Other things to bring are just personal care items, bedding. Most of our bedding is extra long twin sheets. University Village and Powhatan, they are full beds because they're more of an apartment style. But after you have a dorm, you can actually go on the website too and see, exactly what size bed is in that room. You could have some decorations, you can have some entertainment, and you could bring an appliance. So you're allowed to have a mini fridge and a microwave, but microwaves are not allowed in Rogers, Gresham, and Whitehurst, but they do have microwaves available like on the floor and community microwaves. So this year we're actually launching a new service. It's called Room Service, where it's easier. It's move-in made easy. You can order stuff from the bookstore, like storage unit, storage compartments, sheets, towels, other accessories for your dorm, and you would order it through the bookstore, and they would deliver it to your room right before you move in, so you don't have to carry everything with you, or when you get here you don't have to go to the store. You would just be able to get it off the bookstore, and they would deliver it right to your room for you. So this is just some more information. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook. That's our office number, our email address. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email us. And the bottom QR code, it's a virtual tour. So it's a virtual tour of campus and all of our residence halls. So you can get like an inside view of what the residence hall looks like, what the rooms look like, and just what the space you're going to be living in.
Thanks, Jennifer. We're going to turn it over to Thomas now to talk about off-campus student life.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so with off-campus student life, we are a unit in our student engagement and traditions department, and we essentially exist to make sure you're being supported as an off-campus, if you're living off campus, both in still having that sense of belonging to the campus and also supporting you in that off-campus housing journey, in that commuting journey, making sure you're still being given the resources to thrive and feel connected to the Monarch family. So when it comes to what we do, a big thing that we do is providing a lot of programs and events to make sure that you are building those relationships and making those connections, feeling supported. We know that when you are living a bit of an extra distance away from campus, especially if you're moving to the area for the first time, it can be very easy to feel very disconnected very quickly, especially if you're not being supported. So that's exactly why we exist, is to avoid that as much as we can. So we always have events and initiatives going on, including our off-campus student luncheon, which is our big annual kickoff event in the fall semester. It's on August 22nd this year, and that's a great opportunity to join us for lunch, meet new and returning off-campus students, and hear from resource tables and also guest speakers from ODU in the city of Norfolk. And speaking of the city of Norfolk, we do work closely with them throughout the year to make sure you're being when you're living off campus, that you're being supported in that and that you're being protected in that as well. So we have connections to their legal experts who make sure that they're sharing information and providing education about your rights, your responsibilities, and your legal protections when you are possibly renting off campus. And I'll touch on that a little more on the next slide, but I do also want to highlight, while still kind of talking about the engagement piece, our off-campus student advisory board. This is a great initiative that we have. It's a team of current off-campus students from all different years, a student-led group that work to advocate for the needs of off-campus students. So if you are living off campus this coming year, I saw we had a couple say that's their plan. They are very much your student representatives. And if you ever have concerns or suggestions in that area of your life, you can always connect with me, or you can always connect, if you're looking for that more student perspective, you can always connect with one of them as well. They'll always be at any event that we do. So on the next slide, I'll talk a little more about our property listing and our neighborhood collaborations. When it comes to living off campus, a big part about that is actually finding a place to live. And for anyone looking to potentially rent, the number one resource I send all students to is our off-campus housing portal. It's just oduoffcampus.com. And this is something we've created in partnership with apartments.com. It's a place where you can find listings, properties that are available for rent near ODU, in and around Norfolk, and near Norfolk as well. So it's a great place to go to find, maybe if you're looking for an apartment or if you're looking for a room within a house that you can rent. This is the number one place I recommend all students check out, because not only can you find those listings, you can get information about them. There are so many tools packed into this platform You can find the distance from the property that you're looking at to ODU or in spots near ODU. There's also sample roommate agreements and move in and move out checklists available on this page, and so much more. There's an off-campus living guide that can help you prepare yourself for renting, but also help you familiarize yourself a little bit with the surrounding area. And not least of which, there's also an opportunity to create a roommate profile on this portal as well. And that's probably one of my favorite things about the page because in my experience in searching for off-campus housing, there's just not a lot of pages or platforms that make it particularly easy or convenient to find roommates when you're living in an off-campus space. But this does exactly that. This is your tool to finding someone to live with. Either you can use it to find someone to do that search with, or you can find a student who already has an available room and they just need someone to join them there. So all you have to do is create that profile, highlight the things you are looking for in a roommate, highlight your own roommate habits, and then you can view other students who are in the search process or who already have that place. And then there is another way we support you in that housing journey. Like I mentioned, we collaborate closely with the City of Norfolk, especially their Rent Ready Norfolk team. And this is a really great program to know about if you're ever planning to live off campus. And for those of you who are planning to live on campus when you're at ODU, one day after you graduate, you may very well rent after you graduate. You may still be looking for an off-campus property after then. And that's why I really recommend the informational sessions provided by Rent Ready Norfolk to all students because these sessions provide you with information and tips to know about all avenues of renting off campus. So even if you're not yet planning to rent, one day you may, and one day if you do rent, you're going to need that information. So in the coming fall semester, they'll be doing an Are You Ready for Off-Campus Housing session when they'll just talk about the things to know when searching for housing and when starting that process. And they're also going to do a renter's guide to rental agreements. And that's going to cover leases and the things that you should look out for when you are signing those rental agreements, how to safely read those to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success and protecting yourself in the best way possible. Because when you are renting, not only do you have rights and responsibility, not only do you have responsibilities, you also have rights. You also have those legal protections. When you sign that rental agreement, it's a commitment that you are making that you are going to fulfill your duties to your landlord, but it's also the landlord has responsibilities that they need to be fulfilling for you. And if they're not doing that, if you're having issues in that space, if you are having any issues navigating your relationship with your landlord, Rent Ready Norfolk can help you there. They are the experts in this field. So always keep them just in your back pocket. They are a great tool to have to support you in that journey. We know that living off campus, renting, that can be a little, that might feel a little overwhelming. I've been there. And that's why we try to put as much information in front of you as possible to help you navigate that. And we provide other information about leasing, some tips that we have just on our webpage. We also provide information about budgeting, paying your utilities, which are going to be those monthly additional costs on top of your rent. So you may be paying for electricity as well, or water, Wi-Fi, things like that. And we can provide information on how to prepare for that. And then lastly, I will say that we're also launching off-campus student workshops in the fall. So keep an eye out for those because those are going to be student-led sessions that are going to focus on providing practical guidance on navigating that transition into being an off-campus student. It's going to be led by students who've been there, they've done that, and they're going to cover the topics that they wish they'd known when they started this journey. So if you ever have questions, if you're ever experiencing any issues, or if you ever have any suggestions, there is so much available to you to support you in that. Please always feel free to reach out to us with anything that you have going on, even if it's just a question about just a very general question about searching for off-campus housing. I'm always happy to help however I can. You can see our email on the screen here with our phone number, our Instagram, ODU Off Campus as well. And yes, we have whatever you need, we can generally support you in some way. And that's all I've got. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Thomas. Those are some great resources. I mean, the roommate search that you guys have, understanding the legal lease, those workshops with current students, I think those are all great. And you're right that even if you're going to live on campus at first, many students end up living off campus at some point, and many graduate students live off campus. So I think these resources are helpful no matter what, even if you're planning to live on campus for your first year. Okay, so be sure you're putting your questions for Thomas and Jennifer into the Q&A. We'll have plenty of time to answer all of your questions. We did want to go over a few more tips, mostly related to living off campus, because again, most graduate students will live off campus, and most of our freshmen, even if you live on campus your first year or two, might end up living off campus at the end. So Thomas mentioned the word utilities. So if you aren't familiar with this word, it just means the services to the home, such as electrical power, water, gas, internet. When you're living off campus, some of these utilities might be included in rent and come with the home or apartment, but some do not, or maybe it only includes water, but nothing else. So a really important question to ask is what utilities are included. When they tell you the rent price, what else does that include? If it does not include all of the utilities, it is your job to call the utility company and set up that service to the house or to the apartment before you move in. When you call to set up a utility service, they will probably ask for your social security number, which you may not have if you've never worked in the United States before. So you do not need a number unless you're paying taxes, working and paying taxes. So it's okay to not have one. You just have to explain that I'm a foreign national, or a non-US citizen, and I don't have one. Or sometimes you can just enter all zeros for that number if they let you do that. And again, this is okay because it is not a legal requirement to have a social security number. They're just used to all US Americans having one. So that's why they ask. But if you explain you don't have one or enter zero, sometimes they will charge you an extra deposit to start your utilities. It's usually between $100 and $300. So a deposit is something that you get back at the end when you move out, or maybe at the end of the year, but you will have to pay additional money up front to start those utilities if you don't have a social security number. So keep that in mind, that there might be additional costs to set this up at the start of your lease. A few other tips we want to talk about. You usually have to pay for an application for an off-campus home or apartment. They usually do cost money, so it's not a scam if someone is charging $50 for an application fee. But you can always ask for information or to tour the apartment before you submit your application. So make sure you're asking all these questions, that you're genuinely interested, so you're not wasting money on applications. But you should never have to pay for a tour. So if someone's trying to charge you for a tour to come see the apartment, I would avoid it. It's probably not very legitimate. Make sure that you're reviewing that lease in detail. A lease, that is the housing contract, that is a legal document. So do not sign it until you are sure that that is where you want to live. I've had students in the past who said, I went ahead and signed a lease because I wanted to secure housing to make sure I had somewhere to live. But then I kept looking and I found this better apartment, and now I want to go there. So how do I get out of this lease? It is very hard to get out of a lease once you have signed it, because again, it's a legal contract. So do not sign it until you are sure that that is where you want to live. And make sure you're reading the entire thing. So sometimes they have additional requirements, like you have to do yard work if you're living in a single family house, or maybe they don't allow subleasing or early termination, or what to do if something happens and there needs to be a repair. Make sure you're understanding all of these details. Some things might be negotiable, but just make sure you're reading fully through the contract before you sign it. Again, the start date of this might be negotiable. So even if they're posted as saying this apartment is not available until August 25th, and the August classes start August 24th, I would reach out and say, is there any possibility of starting early? Because oftentimes whoever is living there currently, the current tenant, they may have already secured their next apartment and they're actually moving out 2 weeks early. And so oftentimes the landlord can check with the current tenants. And if they're moving out early, then you can move up your start date and you can actually move in before classes start. So it's always worth asking. Um, you know, you you could do it two ways. I like to say, have it in place so that you can just move right in when you arrive. You don't have to pay for, secondary accommodation, temporary housing or a hotel. But maybe you prefer to do that. Maybe you want to see a place in person before you sign the lease, and that's okay. But just keep in mind, you are going to have to then arrange some kind of temporary housing or find a hotel to cover you and you usually can't move in right away. It might be a week or two at least. So you're going to have to be prepared to find temporary accommodations during that time. Okay, you do have to pay a security deposit when you move in. That you do get back again once you move out, as long as you have left the home in good condition, but it's usually equal to 1 month's rent. So a lot of students don't realize when you first arrive, you have additional costs up front. You might be paying 2 months rent up front to move in and for that security deposit. So you need more money when you first arrive in the US than you might need later on for your monthly expenses. So just make sure that you arrive with enough funds to cover all of that. All right, a few more tips. Unfurnished means there's no furniture in that apartment. That apartment or home is going to be completely empty. So if it is an unfurnished apartment that you are renting, make sure you know how to find furniture. You can usually find cheap used furniture. There's thrift stores in the city. Facebook Marketplace is a good one. You're buying from an individual. And a lot of times, someone's willing to deliver, or sometimes the thrift stores will deliver for an extra charge. So if you don't have a car or a friend with a car or a way to pick up that furniture, make sure that you're inquiring and asking if they also can deliver. Of course, it's cheaper to live with roommates if you're trying to save some money. But I always recommend, you ask some questions of that person, make sure you're compatible. Are you both social? Do you mind having people over at night? Do you have quiet hours? Are you okay with having a TV in the living room? Maybe, if you have a certain diet or, so questions to ask if they're important to you. I recommend that you do individual leases instead of a joint lease. So that means that you are on your own lease with the landlord, and then your roommate has their own separate lease with the landlord. If it's both of you listed on the same lease, that means you're both responsible if something happens or if money is owed for a repair. So if your roommate is the one to do the damage, or maybe your roommate moves out and leaves you to pay the whole month's rent, that would all fall on you to cover that. But if you have your own individual leases, then that you wouldn't be responsible if your roommate damaged something or if they moved out early, you wouldn't have to also pay his rent. Okay. So if you can, try to get individual leases and then split utilities. So maybe I would set up the electrical power, and maybe if Thomas was my roommate, I would ask him to set up internet, and then I would ask Jennifer to set up the water. So split that with your roommate so that each of you have a utility in your own name. And so it's not one person in charge of all the utilities, again, in case you have a hard time getting money from your roommates to help pay for those utilities. All right, your landlord may ask you to do a background or a credit history check, which if you have never lived in the US, you will not have one of these. So ask if there's an alternate option. Oftentimes they will waive that if you pay a larger deposit. Make sure that when you're looking for off-campus housing, that it's near campus or that it's within walking distance or that it's near transportation. Norfolk is a pretty large city, so don't just do an internet search for Norfolk apartments because you might be 30 minutes away on the other side of town and there's not good transportation to get you to campus. So make sure you're looking for something that's near campus or near transportation that can get you here, unless you are planning to buy a car. Oftentimes they'll require that you have renter's insurance or rental insurance. So just be aware that's something that you may have to purchase from an insurance company. Scams. We, of course, want to mention these because unfortunately they do happen. Students get scammed. Usually happens if you see like an individual posting a house or a room for rent on something like Facebook, and it's not necessarily through a website or an apartment complex website, or it's not on this ODU, off-campus housing website. So just be aware, especially if they're asking for payment through like an instant app like Zelle or Cash App or Venmo, and that money is transferred instantly and then it's gone. That's a little bit of a warning sign. So just be aware of that. Or, if you see a house posted for way cheaper than anything else you've seen around campus, it's hundreds of dollars cheaper than normal, that's a warning sign, okay? Maybe there's something really wrong with that property, or maybe it's a scam. Okay, and then I like to say just connect with student organizations, current students who are here. They're great for giving you tips, resources, how they found apartments. Maybe you can find a roommate that way as well. All right, a few resources reminder for you. I'll put these links here in the chat. Be sure you're looking at our admitted student guides. The international student admitted guide is where we're going to be posting the recording to this webinar today. If you're still working on getting your visa, be sure you're looking at our visa and travel pages. There's the link to the ODU housing website and the My ODU portal, which is where you would submit your application for on-campus housing. All right, your Crown Countdown tip of the week is wear ODU gear on Fridays. So if you wear ODU colors or something that says Old Dominion University on it on Friday, we have a spirit team that walks around campus, and if they see you, they'll give you prizes. So it's a fun thing to do on Fridays. So that's our tip of the week. And then the student that we're featuring, and I know I saw him log in today, Asuma, so he is here with us. He is coming from Japan. He's coming to do our English language program. He enjoys in his free time watching performances of Japanese drum and videos of American motorbikes, such as Harley Davidson, which is very cool. I've never ridden on a motorcycle myself. I did one time, and I was terrified the whole time. He enjoys accounting and English. And he is looking for a roommate to live off campus. So if you are interested in also looking for a roommate, this is Asuma's email address if you would like to reach out to him. If you're interested in being our next Future Monarch feature, fill out the form and we'll reach out to you. And I'll put the link to the form here in the chat as well. Okay, so with that, questions. So again, put any questions that you have into the Q&A. I did see one that came in through the chat. Jennifer, this one's for you. Is there any on-campus housing for a student that has a family, like a spouse and child?
So we don't offer family housing. It would just be for anyone who is a student and enrolled in courses.
Okay, thank you. Nobody has questions about housing? Wow, you guys did a good job.
Haley, do you mind if I share one more quick thing?
No, please do.
Awesome. One other thing I forgot to mention, but something I like to share with any new students, especially those coming to Norfolk or Hampton Roads for the first time. There's a local property management company called ODU Rent. And despite its name, ODU Rent is not actually affiliated with ODU. Now, that's not to call ODU Rent out or to alarm anyone who's going to be living with them in the future. We know they rent a lot of places to a lot of students. But I do like to share that because I know it was confusing for me when I came here. I thought that meant ODU owned off-campus homes they were renting to students. They are their own thing. So if you ever do have any questions for them, or if you are living with them and have questions about their leasing information, they have their own separate leasing office. They are their own separate entity. We do not oversee ODU Rent.
That's good to know. Do you mind sharing actually too, Thomas, a little bit more about how the roommate search works that you have? You said students can like create a profile, and then what, students can search through the profiles to find a potential roommate and just reach out to them themselves, or how does that work?
Absolutely, yeah. So all they need to do is they'll go to the ODU off-campus page. You'll just create an account with your you'll need your ODU email to create an account. Should be your ODU email, and then once you create that roommate profile, You can see other students who have also created a profile. It might have their picture and then details about them. And then you can contact them, and then they can also see you, so they can contact you as well. I do recommend being the one to initiate those first conversations. But simply putting your profile out there also allows those other students who are also making those profiles to see you and reach out as well.
Cool. It's a great service. Yeah, I agree. All right. Nobody else has questions about housing? I know it's always a challenge, so um, I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording.